Hi everyone, it's Vicky here and welcome back to another mixed media project. Now last week I did share one mixed media tag with lots of dimension and I did promise that I'm going to share one more this week using the leftovers from these wooden shapes. So here are all the designs that I have to work with, and if you haven't seen this tag that I shared last week, make sure to check my videos. It is a really fun project and it's not as difficult as it seems. The tag that I'm working on is a chipboard tag. You can find similar ones in any craft store. This one that I have, because I get a lot of questions, is from a discontinued collection by Stamperia, but I still have enough in my stash. If you're wondering and you want to recreate something similar, the size of this tag that I'm working on is about 5 3/4 by 4 inches. So I'm starting out by applying my volume paste and using my new stencil from the Olala collection. Notice that I avoided using the Eiffel Tower and I went only with the text. Now I'm going with light blue acrylic paint and I'm going to apply some color on top of my tag. Of course, I did make sure that the volume paste from the previous step was completely dry. You can do that either by letting it air dry, or you can definitely use your heat gun. In any case, volume paste dries super quickly. Now, as you can see, for this first layer of color, I completely covered up the tag along with the volume paste, of course. And just because I don't like to have a solid color on my backgrounds, I always like to mix it up with a second color. I'm going to bring another color of acrylic paint in a lighter shade. This is ivory. And I didn't even clean up my brush or made sure that the previous blue layer was completely dry. I'm just going over it and doing a few brush strokes, and I'm happy with the variation of color on the background. So here is a close-up look of how my tag looks at the moment. I'm going to bring in my heat gun and make sure that these layers of acrylic paint are dry. One of my favorite techniques to do lately is to bring in the texture of the volume paste after covering it up with acrylic paint. So here I'm using a buffer. You can use a sanding block for that, and it does reveal the beautiful texture. At the same time, it does have a touch of that acrylic paint on top, so I absolutely love that look. I'm going to show you a close-up look in a bit. At the same time, I'm going over the eyelet with my sanding block, and it removes any paint that covered it up, so it is nice and shiny again. I'm also going to do the edges. I like to have a different color of edge. I find that it frames my project nicely. Usually I go with a darker frame. However, for this one, I'm going with a white one. So here is how it looks at this stage. I'm absolutely happy with this one, and let's move on and do a few more techniques. So here I'm introducing a little bit of brown very lightly, as you can see, by using my blending brush. I'm using coffee dye ink from my collection of dye inks, and you can see I only touched up a few of the edges. And now it's time to create the composition. This is where I pick up all the elements that I have and try to audition them, change positions, try to decide what goes where and what is pleasing to the eye, and then I'm going to stick everything down by using my hot glue gun. Of course, this is a mixed media tag, so I can go as dimensional as I want. It's not an arsenal page where I have to be afraid of bulk. So I'm going to put on some music and let you see how I did the whole composition, and I'll catch you back in a bit. So you can see here I have finished with the main composition and I'm just using Rub-ons, different images from the same collection, to embellish the background a little bit more. I'm not using the whole image as it is on the Rub-on. Remember, you can always cut it out and make the most out of one image. You can use it 2 or 3 times in different areas of your composition just by tacking it underneath. The Rub-ons are perfect quality. They go over the volume paste or any bumps and texture with no issues at all. There is only one thing you need to remember. Make sure that the surface you are trying to apply your transfer is completely dry. So you see here I did use a postal stamp design that I cut out in half and I was able to tack it underneath different areas of my composition. And I'm going to do the same thing with this ticket so nothing goes to waste by just being underneath another element. Just cut out whatever is not going to show and use it on another area. And the truth is that at this stage it's really difficult to know when to stop. At this stage I'm having so much fun sticking things one on top of the other, creating the composition, playing with the ephemeras and the Rub-ons. So I just don't want this to stop. I'm just having fun playing with all those different layers. So you see here I am layering one Rub-on on top of the other. You can do that with no issues at all. And if you remember in the previous tag I did use decorative chips, so I have a few leftovers from the previous tag. I have the big Eiffel Tower, which I'm not going for this composition, but you can definitely use it if you like. There are also 2 tinier Eiffel Towers that match one on top of the other, so you can layer them and you can have dimension if you like. I just pop them out for you so you can see how they work together. Just a beautiful embellishment, this one. So anyway, for this composition I do have a lot already, so I'm not going to add another Eiffel Tower on top of them. I'm just going to go with leaves and flowers. I like that they are neutral in color, so by using them I can achieve a fuller look of my composition, while at the same time I don't add extra elements and extra color to turn it even busier than it already is. I'm also tacking a little flower behind the other one. And I'm super happy with how it looks at the moment. Of course, I need to add a quote or a sentiment, something with a word. That's what I do with all my mixed media projects. So I went with one label from the Ephemera pack. And although the ephemeras are actually stickers that you can peel off the packing and stick them down, sometimes I'm being very lazy and I just don't care peeling off the backing. I just go ahead and use the glue that I have handy on the side. And of course, this is what I mean when I say I don't know when to stop with compositions. So I just had to add a little bit of blue with that ephemera flower there. I'm tucking it underneath. And I'm not going to bore you anymore. I'm going to stop here with the composition. And you all know what is coming next. I'm going to add some white splatters. Now I'm using white calligraphy ink, but you can dilute white acrylic paint with water and do that, or you can dilute your gesso. Whatever you have just works fine. Now let's add a little bit of a ribbon for the top. I'm just using a little piece of ribbon here. I'm going to thread it through and I like to hold them together with my reversible tweezers, and then with another piece of string I tie a bow. So that was the project for today. Just like always, you will find a full list of all the supplies that I used down below in the description, as well as on my blog. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Don't forget to like the video as well as leave me a comment, and I'll see you all next time.